So now is the time to deploy our VCSA or VMware vCenter appliance from our Active Directory. So you have to power on your Active Directory ESXi 01, which we are going to deploy our vCenter server to ESXi. And of course ESXi later on we're going to add it to the vCenter server. So these two virtual machines should power on. Active Directory because we want to actually deploy VMware vCenter appliance from the Active Directory, and we want to actually deploy to this ESXi, which is the first ESXi. You can actually deploy it from your local computer or laptop. That would be okay if you point your laptop or PC DNS to the Active Directory. That means, let me show you here, ipconfig, let's say all. You should actually use the DNS for your Active Directory IP address. Let me show you here. Like this, pointing your DNS to the Active Directory. That means now we can ping our ESXi by name from our local PC. .local, and we'll say ping. Sorry, I forgot lab. Great. And again, we can actually resolve our second ESXi again from our PC. So, but I'd rather to actually publish it from our Active Directory in case that you cannot access the lab environment from your PC. So, first of all, we should actually copy the installer ISO file for vCenter server to the Active Directory simply by dragging the file and put it here. As you can see, it's easy that you can copy the ISO file from your local PC to the virtual machine. So we'll say cancel because we have it here. And I strongly recommended that you use Firefox or Google Chrome for install or deploying or even connecting to vCenter server. So again, you should actually copy the file to the Active Directory just for deploying. After that, we're going to delete this file and we're going to install Firefox on Active Directory to continue the installation because Firefox and Google Chrome is much better than IE or Edge browser. So here we'll double click on the file and we'll go to the VCSA UI installer and Win32 and we'll scroll down to see the installer file. So let me use my full screen. So here we have install, upgrade, migrate, and restore from backup. So in installing a vCenter server, it has two phases. First one is going to install and second one is going to set up or configuring our vCenter server that we already installed. So by clicking install, we're going to initiate the first phase. So here we'll click on next and we'll accept the license agreement. And here we'll type the ESXi IP address or host name and the credential, which is going to be root for ESXi IP address, and this is the password. And here is the certificate warning, that's okay. And this is the VMware vCenter server. I'm going to say VCSA. And the password for root account. We'll say next. And we're going to use the tiny version. Here you can define which version that you want and the storage size. And we'll click on next. And here is the data store and the default configuration. I'm going to click on enable thin disk mode because we don't want actually to reserve this amount of disk space for only vCenter server. And we'll say next. And here is the configuration. The wizard actually detects our VM network from ESXi here. And the IP assignment is going to be static, and FQDN, we're going to say vcsa.lab.local, which we use in our DNS here. Let's say DNS mgmt.msc. So vcsa.lab.local, as you can see here. Great. And the IP address is going to be 10. And the subnet mask, again, and the default gateway, we will use the default gateway that we have in our lab, or you can type whatever IP address here. And the DNS, it should be point to your Active Directory or DNS server. And these are the default port for accessing vCenter server. You can change the default port, but for the lab, the default is great option, and we'll say next. And if you're happy with the review page, simply we're going to click on finish. So the first phase actually started. So we should wait for the deploying vCenter server, which is our first phase. And second, we're going to set up our vCenter server when the first stage is finished. So now the first stage is actually completed successfully. And now to proceed the stage 2, we should click on continue. And here it tells you the time. It can be actually synchronized with your ESXi or NTP server. Here you can just type the NTP or network time protocol server, which is going to be public or localized on your network. I'm going to use the first option. And SSH access, here you can say disable or enable. Actually, I'm going to leave it enable for our lab. And later on, if it's needed, we're going to SSH to our vCenter server. So we'll say next. And here it tells you you should create a new SSO domain or single sign-on domain name. We'll say, as you can see, vSphere.local is the local single sign-on domain. So vSphere.local, and the password for administrator user. Next. And here is the CEIP. We can uncheck and we'll say next. And again, this is the review page. You should double check it and we'll say finish. And this pop-up, it tells you cannot pause or stop the installation. When you click on OK, that's okay. We're going to finalize the installation by stage 2. Now we have successfully installed vCenter server here. Simply we'll click on this link here to actually connect to the vCenter server. And here we'll say advanced and we'll accept the risk and continue. And we'll click on launch vSphere by HTML file. And here for logging into our vCenter server, we should type administrator assign vSphere.local. This is the default SSO domain name here and the password. Now we have successfully logged into our vcsa.lab.local to the vSphere client. And here you can manage the license. So simply we'll exit the full screen mode, and from my computer I'm going to log into the vSphere client. Let's say new private window, and we'll type the IP address of our vCenter server, and we'll say accept again. And now we can continue actually logging into our vcsa.lab.local from my PC or laptop. That means my DNS server should point to the Active Directory. Let's say all. Here, as you can see, the DNS server is my Active Directory that is installed on VMware Workstation. Because now from my computer, I can resolve vcsa.lab.local. If you don't point your local PC to the DNS server, that means you cannot resolve this IP address and you cannot access the vCenter server from your computer or your laptop.